Today we're going to be talking about whether or not a Democratic wave come 2018 is inevitable from this point in time. On our screen right now, we are looking at the 2018 congressional generic ballot poll that's been taken on a national level, and then we're also going to look through a number of House ratings, starting off from the earliest on May 9th, 2017, and finishing off on the most recent rating. Sorry, that's the Senate. The most recent rating for the House, which was July 24th, 2018. So as you can see, pretty much if you look at this, there are a whole number of leaning Republican seats, likely Republican seats, and Republican toss-up seats. But we'll start off right early on. We look at May 9th, 2017, when the House races first started rolling around. There wasn't a single Republican race on the other side for the Democrats, except for the Pennsylvania 17th race. And that was just basically retiring incumbent and a whole number of other factors that really weren't an accurate indication of what America truly believes about the Democratic Party over the Republican Party. And we're looking at this right now. We actually have more Democratic toss-up seats than we do Republican toss-up seats. So we have two toss-up seats for the Republicans from the California 49th district and the Virginia 10th district. I remember getting ads for that back in 2016 from both political parties. We look at the lean Republican, actually one Democratic seat here and 25 Republican seats. So keep in mind a number of these typical seats that you might see: Montana at large, New Jersey 07, New Jersey 11th. Look at a number of these races and you'll see where they stand today in 2018 as we progress. So we'll look at the next rating, August 16th, 2017, and there is something to point out when it comes down to opinion polling. When the Democrats were probably at their worst position in the House of Representatives, they were currently ahead by 4.7% in opinion polling in May. So we'll go down to, I guess, when May begins, leading into June, a 4.7% lead for the Democrats over the Republicans in the month of May. And then we go over to August, right around here. I would say in the middle of August, considering that we are looking at this, and it was August 16th, so around the middle of August, around here, they had a 7.8% lead over the Republican Party. But somehow these House ratings are nothing as competitive as we see today. And this just goes to show how the generic ballot poll isn't always an accurate indication of what we're seeing when it comes down to the competitive races. We'll go ahead and look at January 8th, 2018, skipping over into 2018, the first rating of the 2018, election year, fully being the election year. We have a number of competitive races on the Republican side, 17 toss-ups from the Republicans, yet somehow there were only 2 toss-ups less than a year before that. So keep that in mind. And if we look at January 8th, actually we'll just see around January, there was a huge lead for Democrats, around a 10.3% lead when I had calculated it before the video. But over here, keep in mind, December to January was probably the prime time for Democrats. They had the most opinion polling, and it was also the best for the Democrats. They, at one point, had a 13% lead, according to Real Clear Politics. So keep that in mind. And also, these House races aren't too lenient towards the Democrats from what we see today. We have 4 toss-up seats for the Democrats and 17 toss-up seats for the Republicans. We'll go over into April 2018, more Republican seats, but over in April, let's see where we can find it. I guess we'll start off on the first day of April. A 7.2% lead for the Democrats over the Republicans. But if we're looking at the ratings here on April 18th, 2018, it's more lenient towards the Democrats than what we saw back in January when they had a 10% lead or even a 13% lead a couple weeks before in the generic ballot poll. So for some reason, the lead has narrowed down, but there are more districts that definitely have a real possibility of going to the Democratic Party. Let's go into our most recent rating, jumping over to July 24th, 2018, 24 Republican toss-up seats, 25 lean Republican seats, and 27 likely Republican seats, compared to before, where there are only 2 Republican toss-up seats. Keep that in mind. 9 lean Republican seats, along with 1 Democratic seat in there, and 25 likely Republican seats. So again, comparing that to what we see today, we only have 1 Democratic seat in the likely column, 0 in the leaning column, and 0 in the toss-up column, and the Democrats have narrowed down their toss-up column down to 2, and there are a number of Republican seats compared to before, where there were 0 Republican seats in the leaning Republican column. And if we look over at the likely Republican column, 3 Republicans, only 1 Republican in the earliest, House composition ratings done by the Cook Political Report. And we'll look at the lead today. We have a 7.5% lead today, July 29th, 2018. So, again, 5 days after these ratings were made, but still a 7.5% lead for the Democrats over the Republicans. And yet, this is the most lenient and best-looking competitive races map for the Democrats. They have a whole number of Republican seats to focus on. They only need 24 seats to take back the House of Representatives. Keep in mind, 218 is a majority. We're probably not going to see 2006 or 2008 numbers for the Democrats because that was at their all-time high, And again, they had Barack Obama on their side at the top of the ticket. This probably could end up being a Democratic wave year, but again, nothing is set in stone. Looking at these ratings, yes, it looks very good for the Democrats. Again, they only need 24, and they don't need all 24 of the toss-up seats, considering they already have a number of Republican seats on their column. So they only need 14 after you take away those 10 from the GOP. But again, nothing is set in stone. If we look at the generic ballot poll from 2010, this would have been a Democratic wave year if you had analyzed it all the way leading up into around, let's see, where the Republicans started leading, into December, when the Democrats actually started getting their biggest lead in the generic ballot poll when it comes down to the 2018 midterms. So before, you would have said this is a Democratic wave year. Even though it is a midterm year against the incumbent, the Democrats are currently leading by double digits. Cool, we get that. But leading out into the general election, the Republicans took it back, especially with a firm opposition to the president. It went from contested again. Well, it's currently leading Democratic, then Republican, then contested, and then boom, the Republicans skyrocket off into a 9.4% average lead come the end of 2010. That is phenomenal for the Republicans. And if we look at the ratings that we see by Real Clear Politics in 2010, look at all those blue seats that are currently being contested. The likely GOP seats, there are 9 Democratic seats. In the leaning GOP seats, we have 40 Democratic seats. And in the toss-up, I'm not sure how many are there, but only in the leaning Democratic column were there only 2 Republican seats, and there were 0 Republican seats in the Republican column, in the Democratic column from the Republican side. And if we go ahead and look at what we're seeing now, it's mildly accurate, but we're not seeing as many Republican seats on the leaning and likely Democratic side as what we saw back in 2010. But again, 2010 was the best year for the Republicans, and Democrats had seats in a number of Republican districts. So do Republicans here. Republicans have a number of districts where Hillary Clinton won in back in 2016, and yet somehow they have Republican incumbents, and those are the ones the Democrats are heavily targeting. And again, there is possibly going to be a Democratic wave year. We are looking at this polling, and we're probably not going to see Republicans shoot up like we did in 2010, and Democrats have consistently held a lead. We've never seen a point where the Republicans are leading the Democrats in the opinion polling section when it comes to the average. We've seen a couple of polls that were incorrect or just mildly skewed in the favor of the Republicans that showed them ahead by 1 to 2%, but we've never seen a double-digit lead like we're seeing now for the Democratic Party, or even above 5% lead for the Republican Party over the Democrats. And looking at these polling numbers, yes, polling could be mildly inaccurate, but they weren't also, just because they were wrong in 2016, number one, does not mean that they're going to be wrong for your entire lifetime. Distrusting in polling would mean that you just throw out all evidence and just use your own intuition and your own thinking, just so you could say that someone will win an election based on what you feel like. If you actually use the data that we have now, this could likely be an accurate indication. And also keep in mind, only one state was actually out of the margin of error for Trump in 2016, and that was the state of Wisconsin. So keep that in mind. Polls weren't completely wrong. But again, I just made a video on actually showing the media predictions for the 2016 election, and none of them showed Hillary winning by a landslide at all. And something else that's funny is also CNN was the only the only national news media that actually gave Hillary Clinton under 270 electoral votes. So keep that in mind. But when we're looking at the generic ballot polls, these should be an accurate indication of what we might see come 2018. And the Democrats would definitely need to do very well when it comes to the national vote, because they typically do very well, again, in the national vote when it comes down to House elections or the presidential election, or I guess Senate elections. When it comes down to the most votes cast for either political party, Democrats usually end up on top or just a couple points below top. And we look at the 2016 results, Democrats were around 2% less voted for than the Republican Party, yet somehow the Republicans have this overwhelming majority in the House of Representatives. Yes, it comes down to gerrymandered districts and a number of other races, but if the Democrats are able to win, let's say the election is held today, and win by 7.5% on the national vote, it should definitely show an implication of possibly a Democratic wave. And let's go ahead and take a look at the 2018 Senate ratings. If anything, this is not a Democratic wave. The 2018 Senate should be a bloodbath for Democrats. And looking at the ratings from before, these were taken, I believe, January 9th, 2017. 26 seats for the Democrats and 9 seats for the Republicans. Lean Democratic seats: Florida, Bill Nelson; Indiana, Joe Donnelly; Maine, Angus King, which was pretty surprising to me; Missouri, Claire McCaskill; and Ohio, Sherrod Brown, likely Democratic; John Tester from Montana; Heidi Heitkamp from North Dakota, which is also pretty interesting; Bob Menendez from New Jersey; Bob Casey from Pennsylvania; Tim Kaine from Virginia; Tammy Baldwin from Wisconsin; and Joe Manchin from West Virginia. And we're going to ignore the solid Democratic column. I guess an open seat from Arizona, Dean Heller from Nevada, Roger Wicker from Mississippi in the solid Republican column. Actually, we can ignore that for now, but the Tennessee Bob Corker seat was considered solid Republican. We lead into with the 2018 Senate races as of July 27th, actually more updated than the House races, we see a number of Democratic seats that are considered toss-up. Florida, Indiana, Missouri, North Dakota, West Virginia. Ohio is that only one that's remained in the lean Democratic column. Then we go over to the likely Democratic column. Debbie Stabenow, Tina Smith, John Tester, I believe is still there, or he might have been in the leaning Democratic column. Yeah, he's still in the likely column. Bob Menendez has stayed there. Tammy Baldwin has stayed there. Bob Casey has stayed there. The only thing that's really good for Democrats is that Texas has moved over to likely Republican, along with Nebraska and the Mississippi special election. In the toss-up column, we have Arizona, Dean Heller, and another open seat from the state of Tennessee. But still, more toss-up seats for the Democrats. And also, when we're looking at the Senate map, it doesn't look like there's going to be a Democratic wave. If we give all of the races that Donald Trump, if we take all the states that Donald Trump won in back in 2016 and give them to Republicans, we would see a map that starts very much going out for the Republican Party. Now they're already at 53 seats, but we have to finish off the map and give the Republicans all the races that Donald Trump won in back in 2016. So that would give the Republicans a majority of 60 seats to the Democrats 40 seats. But obviously, right now, it seems like the political pundits really show the Rust Belt as a hold for Democrats, along with New Jersey and the Mississippi special election. But again, the Republicans do have a very big possibility of getting gains. And also, looking at right now, the Democrats have lost a number of ratings out of the leaning and likely column that have gone into the toss-up column. Yes, the Republicans have as well, but it's only 3 seats. The Republicans only need 3 from what we're looking at. If we look at the battleground map, actually only 1 according to 270 to win, but Tennessee, I would consider more of a toss-up than others. So actually, if you don't count Texas, only 2 seats are needed by the Republican Party in order to win in the United States Senate. That's why most Democrats are focusing on the House. If the map looked like what it did in 2016, if you look at the 2016 Senate elections, actually I can pull them up right now, it was much more lenient to the Democratic Party. If that was the map that we would see here, it could definitely be a Democratic wave in the United States Senate. I didn't mean to click on that, but if we look at the map, we see states like Wisconsin or Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Iowa, Georgia, North Carolina, Florida, Arizona. A lot of these states with Republican incumbents that would have been vulnerable if this was a Democratic wave year weren't vulnerable because this was a Republican wave year in terms of the presidential elections. A lot of people expected Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and possibly even Florida, even though not necessarily, but a lot of people expected a number of these races to flip, possibly even Missouri with Jason Kander on the Democratic side against Roy Blunt. And if we look at this, the Democrats did gain 2 seats, but a lot of people were expecting it to end with the Democrats gaining 4 seats and finishing off the Senate at 50-50, which would be much more lenient to the 2018 Senate map. But again, the 2018 Senate elections are not looking too good for the Democrats. When it comes down to the House elections, yes, they're doing extremely well. But at this point in time, I cannot say that the Democratic wave is inevitable because, again, like we saw in 2010, before you would have rated that as a Democratic wave leading up into December. And I get it. We are past December, and we're getting very close. We're around 100 days. We might actually be less than 100 days away from the midterm elections. But I get it. I understand the argument that, oh yeah, this is going to be a Democratic wave because they are currently leading now. But again, October surprises come around, and if we had that thinking back in 2016, like most people did, they would have said Hillary Clinton would win in a landslide just taking opinion polling very early before the election. Once we start narrowing down into September, October, yes, you could start making an accurate indication of what a Democratic wave would look like. But right now, I'm not going to clearly say it is inevitable, but there will be definitely Democratic pickups in the House. But the Senate, I'm not so sure of. Thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I will see you all tomorrow.